Greetings! I am Herbert Erpaderp, and it's time for Ask a Herbert Erpaderp once again. It feels like it's been a long time since the last Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, but it's only been 2 weeks. So let's get to the questions. First, Sneaky Zaku said, I do not usually do these, but this is a modular ship type system that will be coming out. What do you think of it? And there's a link to a video by Tested. That's pretty cool, and I'm actually quite tempted. I was a bit disappointed that they don't seem to already have their crowdfunding campaign up and running, but I will keep an eye on it. Who doesn't like spaceships? Duncanuva said, do you want to visit New Zealand? Have you heard of the game series called Five Nights at Freddy's? I would like to visit New Zealand, or NZ, bro. I would love to go to Weta Workshop and see all the Lord of the Rings stuff, which probably wouldn't surprise anybody, and there's probably a ton of other cool things to see as well. It's not as high on my list of places I would like to go to as, say, Bovington, but it does seem like a really nice place. Also, I have heard of Five Nights at Freddy's. I think I first saw it when Funhouse played it. They must be up to number 10 at least by now. I do remember they seem to be churning them out. I can't say that I really keep up with it at all. I'm not sure it's really my sort of game. Smoes said, would you ever consider doing a one-off or once every 2-3 months series called Storytime with Herbert Erpaderp, where you would share funny stories or life experiences? Well, I'm not very good at coming up with things to talk about unprompted, so I'm not sure it would really be the best series to do. I do share funny stories and life experiences sometimes when I stream though, whenever I'm reminded of something by someone in chat or the game or whatever, just something that triggers memories and such. I think that's probably the best venue for that kind of thing. I think it works much better than having it as a video series. Max W said, Herbert, do you think your mice can compare to the mighty guinea pig? And there's a picture of an adorable guinea pig. Do you mean like in combat or something? Probably. Mice can be kind of vicious and there is a bunch of them. Also, they're probably much faster and can jump and such, so I think they would win in a battle. But I do quite like guinea pigs, and I wish I could have some. Both creatures are adorable, so I don't think there's really much of a competition in that regard. McGobbo said, was wondering if you are painting any miniatures lately. I sure have been. I've got a handful of projects in various stages of completion. This month's painting video should be ready quite soon, I hope. Penfoldo7 said, what was the first model paints brand you used? Did you start off brush painting or did you go straight to the airbrush? What do you think about the current Foshgate of wargaming removing preferential matchmaking? So your KV5, E25 and IS6 as an example will now see +2 -2 matchmaking. Do you think they should offer a refund to the people who bought them specifically for the preferential matchmaking? I remember when I was a kid I had testers enamels and brushes only. I think I did also have some Humbrol enamel tins as well. When I got back into model building in my 20s, I had Games Workshop's paints, and I switched over to Vallejo fairly quickly. I think I brush painted only for 2 or 3 years before buying an airbrush, and I definitely don't regret doing that. I would have bought one sooner but couldn't really afford it. I'm mostly indifferent to Foshgate. I don't see what Fosh has to do with it, but that probably just demonstrates how little I follow World of Tanks drama. I do think it's kind of lame that somehow taking away preferential matchmaking in tanks like the KV5 that really do need it if you want to do well is somehow seen as a fix, and I think they should definitely offer full refunds to those who want one. I did hear there was something where you can pay to get a different tank. I don't know, but that does seem kind of scummy if it's true. I do remember the whole thing with premiums in the old days was that they would never change them, but oh well, I guess things change anyway. The matchmaking on tanks like the KV5 and IS6 and pretty much every tank I like playing is pretty garbage anyway as it is. It's like the system deliberately places me at the bottom of the list almost every time, which is pretty lame. I get bored with being insta-killed by the higher tier tanks every time, and I can only imagine how frustrating that might be to people who are super serious about World of Tanks, though it is kind of funny when those people get upset. I don't feel like it's really worth getting angry about. After all, wargaming isn't your buddy trying to help you have a good time, they're a company out to make money, and for some reason that seems to surprise people. Also, it is just a game. I think the worst problem with it at the moment is just how long it actually takes to get into a battle. I regularly wait in queue for over a minute and usually closer to 2 or 3 minutes, but in the end it is just a game. If they make it so it's no fun to play, then people will probably stop playing it as much. Or at least that's how it should work. Penfold also asked, did you ever play a role-playing game like D&D? And if so, have you heard of a game called Paranoia? I have played D&D. Not very often, and I pretty much forget how it works every time, but it is fun. I don't think I've heard of Paranoia, not in a role-playing game context anyway. Ratto said, Fog of War should be back this month, June. Are you excited? I am. I was thinking the other day that I wanted to see some new Fog of War videos. I hope he's back soon. Some dude said, how many Weet-Bix do you have? None. I'm not a big fan of Weet-Bix, so obviously I never eat them. I mean, I would if I was going to die otherwise, but I don't really enjoy them. I think I would prefer Nutrigrain or something like that. As it is, I very rarely have cereal. Penfold07 again said, will you show us pictures of your new desk layout? Sure, here it is. The pictures that are probably on screen now are the ones that I shared on Instagram a few days ago. One of the reasons there was no Ask a Herbert Erpaderp last week and no modelling video on Monday was that I replaced my desk and some other furniture and bought some new lamps and monitors and such. It took a lot longer to get everything set up than I was expecting, so I didn't have time to get the usual things done. Topher13MW said, what other 1/100th scale model companies do you like outside of Battlefront, Plastic Soldier Company and Zvezda? I guess those are the main ones that I have experience with. I've only built the Rat by Forged in Battle, and from that I would say they make good quality stuff, but it's not really much to go by. I built some Mineron's T26s a couple of years ago and they were pretty decent. About the same quality and level of detail as Zvezda, I would say. I think those might be the only companies I've built models from in that scale. If anyone has any suggestions for companies that make 15mm scale models for me to check out, I would definitely be interested in hearing them. Armour Powered said, I'm trying to pre-order the new plastic leopard ones from Battlefront so I can make a Dutch Panzer Escadron, but I can't find a good price. Best I've seen is $65 Australian on the War Store or something. Anyone got a suggestion? Personally, I have no idea. I'd probably just order it directly from Battlefront because I'm too lazy to try and find other places to buy Battlefront stuff. My favourite online store, the Combat Company, won't deal with them, and I imagine most places would charge more in shipping than it's worth. If anyone has any suggestions, I'm sure Armour Powered would appreciate it. Though for future reference, the Ask a Herbert Erpaderp channel is probably not the best place to ask that sort of open to everyone question, especially if you want a quick answer. I would prefer people not to answer the questions posted in that channel because it clogs it up and makes it annoying for me to sort through and find the questions for the videos, as it says in the pinned message at the top of the channel. At any rate, I think I saw some discussion about this in the Miniatures channel too, so hopefully you found some help. The Big Boy said, what do I do if my paint is too thin? I mean, it's too thin straight out of the bottle, even well mixed. I've never encountered that problem and I don't think I know of anybody else that has. Most people want thinned paint, so if it's a problem it's gotta be really thin. What brand of paint is it and what colour? I guess maybe if you have the time you could leave it out on a palette or whatever and just kind of wait for it to dry a bit and then use it. I really have no idea what you could do. If it still works as a paint you might just have to do more coats of it, or maybe it's a bad batch. Does anybody else have any suggestions? Leave them in the comments below if you do. Penfold said, have you ever thought of getting together with the people that follow you and organising group buys of kits from some of the companies that you like? For example, get 20 people together and buy a box of Plastic Soldier Company Valentines. Postage might be a killer, but it might be worth a try. I guess it sounds like a nice idea in theory, but I'm not sure it's really practical. I think shipping would definitely be a killer. Not only in getting the 20 or however many boxes there are here, but also in shipping them out to everybody once they've arrived, which kind of adds an extra unnecessary step. It sounds like it would also involve a lot of administration, which is the least appealing part to me. Also, I'm not sure what kind of numbers we would need to buy to get a significant discount, if at all. I would imagine it to be a fairly big number. It is an interesting idea, but I just don't think it's a practical one. And now, a very serious question. Top Bunk Productions said, is this the Krusty Krab? Nope. Sorry. On the previous Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, Ethan Presto said, "Hello." Hello. The Tactic Brick said, "So I'm a new modeler. Is an airbrush worth it for a new modeler, or should I wait? And if I should wait, what's a good alternative?" I guess it depends on how serious you are about continuing with modelling and if you can justify the cost of an airbrush. I think if you can do that and it's not going to make you starve or anything, then you should definitely go for an airbrush. One thing to know though is that an airbrush isn't a magic thing that makes your painting great by virtue that an airbrush was used. Some new painters seem to think that's the case. Some people also think an airbrush is cheating, but they don't know what they're talking about. It's just a tool and you'll have to learn how to use it like any other tool. What it will definitely do is speed up things like priming, base coats and clear coats, and that in itself has a lot of value, at least to me. If you decide to wait, the alternatives are brush painting and rattle cans. Nothing wrong with those at all. Rattle cans should be pretty quick, especially for priming, but an airbrush allows for more control and you can use exactly what colour you want. It also works out cheaper over time. The cost of rattle cans can add up quite quickly. I can't really tell you for certain if you should get an airbrush, but if you want to, go for it. I really like airbrushing and I totally recommend it. And it's not like you need to be proficient with a hand brush before stepping up to an airbrush. They're different things, and they're both useful in their own ways. Hopefully that's helpful in some way. Michael Ormiston said, "Are there any 15mm tanks you'd like the Plastic Soldier Company or Battlefront to produce that they don't already, or the models are of poor quality? I personally would love to see a plastic M18 Hellcat set as the resin kits are just plain ugly." Hellcats would be good. I would really love a plastic Tog too, and plastic Hetzers would be pretty good too. Maybe some BT7s or T35s and stuff like the Sherman Calliope, all in plastic of course. I guess pretty much all of the odd, unique and uncommon vehicles that are really not financially viable to make in plastic would be so good to have in plastic. I do really like odd vehicles and plastic models after all. And that's all the questions for today. Let's go and have a look at some of the models shared by the community over on Discord. Burner581 has shared a whole collection of models that are currently in progress of painting. First up is the BA Captain so far. I had a bit of a brain fart and wasn't sure what BA stood for, but I'm pretty sure it's Blood Angels. Very bloody. Next is this angry Scully Choppy Man. Then there's this pair of Necron Immortals. And this giant red stompy boy who dreads naught. Then there's some Panzer IVs who have been base coated, and some half-tracks which have not been base coated. Here's some 6mm stuff and a couple of artillery pieces, obviously not in 6mm. 2 Jeeps, one for the US and one Soviet Lend-Lease. And here's some M10s, which are only base coated so far. Sneaky Zaku got a new train for their fleet, the little pannier tank on the left. I like pannier tanks, they're odd and interesting looking. Jihad Teppo has finished his Tamiya 1/35th scale Chieftain Mark V. It's painted in British two-tone camo, and Jihad Teppo is very pleased with the results. As he should be, it looks very good. Well, it did look very good. It has now exploded. RIP. Crimson 1149 has been working on his Stormtrooper paint scheme. That's a very nice red colour. Ratto has shared his first actual model kit since 2006, a Revell 1/72nd scale RAH-66 Comanche, which was impulse bought from a flea market because it was €3 and sealed. Well, why not? I would have bought it too. Ratto also shared this very yellow Test Marine. I like the way the whatever colour that is you've used in the gaps looks over the yellow. And it looks like the test was a success. More Marines are being painted yellow for Imperial Fists. And here's some more progress. And here's a Catgirl for Infinity who is wearing socks and sandals. That's probably what makes her a high value target. Lieutenant Colonel John Frost has shared his mouse, which is now complete, and it looks awesome. Very mousy. The license plate is an interesting touch. Is it now street legal? He also shared this Stuka, which is a Flames of War model. Did you have as much trouble with the wheels as I did? Max W shared this snowy section of diorama. It's convincingly cold looking. McGobbo, which I think is a great name, shared some Necromunda Orlok gangers. These are really nicely painted. As someone pointed out, the first one has some amazing sideburns. Penfold07 has painted this Airfix Centurion. He says he doesn't have any Aussie decals, so he's going to have to fake something up. Penfold also shared this Airfix Scimitar. First, it's painted and ready for decals and weathering, and here it is with markings. I agree when you say that it's not too bad for a 50-year-old model. And here's the Airfix Sheridan, also painted and waiting for decals. And now with decals applied. Here's a Matchbox Jagdpanzer IV painted similar to the 4A in the Saumur Museum in France. And then there's this Matchbox Panzer IIIL. Apparently the decals in this kit are from the 1980s and are very fragile. I'm not really surprised by that at all. Penfold has also shared some of his pre-made models, like this Hobbymaster Centurion 5, this Dragon Armour half-track with Pack 40, a Hobbymaster KV2 that was so nice that Penfold bought two. Who doesn't like extra derp? A Fabry T35 in 1/72nd scale, a Dragon Armour T34-76 in a nice winter camo, and everything on the top shelf here is by Hobbymaster except for the Humber and Chaffee that Penfold did himself. Here's a couple more that are in the painting process, an Airfix Chieftain and an Airfix/HB Vickers Light tank. Here's the Airfix Chieftain next to the D'Agostini die-cast model. Topher 13MW shared this pair of T64s for Team Yankee that he's been working on. I like the damage you've done on the side skirts, it's a nice touch. James Valentine has shared his Hetzer and now completed Angry Shooty Mans. This is some really awesome work you've done here. Everything about these models is great. James also shared this very sensible Meng World War II T34-76, which is also very well painted. Timbo101 shared a couple of dioramas he's been working on. The first one is a Hobby Boss T26 model 1932 with Master Box Early War Infantry. He's named the second one They Fought a Bear and Lost. It features a Zvezda IS-2 and a Mini Art T80, with Mini Art Infantry and Tank Crew and Master Box POWs. That's some very nice work. Outlook Cov shared this work in progress 1/35th scale Tamiya M2A2. It's an interesting looking vehicle. Do be sure to share future progress. The big boy has decided to share the rest of his 1/72nd scale diecast collection. There's this Panzer 38T, a Leichter Panzer Sparwagen, flawless German there, an SDKFZ 222, a Panzer II Ausführung F, this 8-Rad with the radio antenna, and one with a gun, aka a Stummel, and then there's this 88mm shooty half-track, a Panzer I, a Flak Verling with a trailer, a B4 M1931 203mm howitzer, and this ISU 152. That's quite the collection you've got there. Very cool. Vinza shared this late Panther G, which is almost completed. This is a Ryefield model in 1/35th scale and it looks amazing inside and out. This is a really nice detailed model and you've definitely done it justice with your painting. Gentleman has shared this Strong Trumpeter KV2 in 1/35th scale. Looks nice. General Spade has shared this Finnish 75 PSTK-40 anti-tank gun and crew, ready to be painted. Do be sure to share when you finish with it. Duncanuva shared his RG Zaku. This isn't the sneaky kind, is it? Also, he shared his friend's HG Universal Century MSN04 Sazabi. And finally, Top Bunk Productions has shared Beelzebub, completed at last. This is a really cool little tank, and it looks like it's been very well used. Also, I rather like the little note somebody painted on the upper hull saying, "Load this." The paint really ties together all the scratch building and stuff you did. Awesome work. And that's it for the models this week. As always, a big thank you to those who shared their models. And of course, if you want to share yours, head over to the Discord and go to the Miniatures channel. There's a link in the description. And if you have any questions you would like answered on the next Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. Also, why not do all the other things like subscribing here on YouTube, following me on social media, and watching me live stream on Twitch. And if you really like the things I do, please consider helping to support the channel over at Patreon, or perhaps by purchasing a mug or t-shirt from my merch store. Links to all of those things are in the description below. And as always, I shall return soon, so until then, be excellent to each other and thanks for watching. Farewell.